In this video, we would learn how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide integers. Adding two positive integers would be the typical addition. That is, we just have to add them and have the positive sign. So 3 plus 7, both are positive. The answer would be 10, and that is still positive. But if we have to add two integers with different signs, we actually have to subtract them and copy the sign of the integer that has greater absolute value. So for example, if we have 4 plus negative 5, subtracting them would give us 1. And for the sign of 1, we have to compare the absolute value of these two integers. The absolute value of 4 is still 4, but the absolute value of negative 5 is 5. And since negative 5 has greater absolute value, we will copy its sign, which is negative. And so the answer would be negative 1. And so applying the same algorithm to our next example, which is negative 10 plus 12, both have different signs, we have to subtract them, so the answer is 2. Now considering the absolute value of these two numbers, the absolute value of negative 10 is 10, and the absolute value of 12 is 12. And since 12 has greater absolute value, we will copy its sign, which is positive, so our answer would be positive 2. Now if we are to add two integers which are both negative, we simply have to add them and have the negative as its sign. So applying that to negative 3 plus negative 5, the answer would be a negative 8. Note that the definition of subtraction is just an offshoot of the definition of addition. Therefore, generally speaking, when we say a minus b, we always have to copy a, which is our minuend, and subtraction would be this time addition, and we would consider the opposite sign of our subtrahend, and the subtrahend in this case is b. Hence, a minus b is just the same thing as a plus negative b. Let's apply that algorithm. If we have 4 minus 7, since we just have to copy the minuend, which is 4, we would now proceed to changing subtraction to addition and have the opposite sign of positive 7, which is negative 7. And so now we can proceed to addition rule. That is, we are now adding two integers with different signs. So, we just have to apply the second rule there at the top under addition. How to do that again? As noted, we have to subtract, right? So we'll have there 3. And between 4 and negative 7 has greater absolute value. Therefore, we'll copy its sign, which is negative. So, the answer is negative 3. Let's have this time 3 minus negative 2. As discussed, we just have to copy the minuend, which is 3, and subtraction would become addition. And lastly, we would consider the opposite sign of the subtrahend, which is negative 2, so that becomes positive 2. And so we now have 3 plus 2, which is 5. Note that the rest of the algorithms here under subtraction rule are just based from the general rule of subtraction. That is, when we say a minus negative b, basing from the general rule, that will just be a plus b. Just like our 3 minus negative 2 earlier, that would become 3 plus 2. And so for negative 2 minus 5, though yes, we can use negative a minus b, we can just apply the general rule, which is to copy the minuend, which is negative 2, and to change subtraction to addition, then have the opposite sign of our subtrahend, which is 5, so that would become negative 5. Yes, since we are to add two negative integers, we just have to add them, then have the negative sign. Therefore, the answer here is a negative 7. Now let's have multiplication and division of integers. Observe that these two operations have the same algorithm. That is, if we are to either multiply or divide integers which have the same signs, our product or quotient will always be positive. And if we are to either multiply or divide integers with different signs, the product or quotient will always be negative. So multiplying positive 2 and positive 3 wherein both have the same signs, the answer will be positive 6. But for negative 3 times positive 2, wherein both have different signs, the answer would be a negative 6. How about negative 2 times negative 5? Notice that they have both the same signs, therefore the answer would be a positive 10.